Hey, you made it. Come on in and join me. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself. I'm super glad you're here. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button so you can follow the adventure as it unfolds. And if you love this podcast, share it with your friends. You have the capacity to understand yourself, and that's through connecting with and understanding other people. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Fridity. And I'm going to share with you a parable about this week's topic, which is navigating loneliness and finding connection, along with explaining what happened to me. So let's get to it. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village, there lived a kind and wise old man who was known for his calming presence and sage advice. One day, a young man approached him, feeling lost and adrift in a sea of loneliness. The old man listened intently to the young man's struggles and shared a parable with him. There was once a mighty oak tree that stood tall and strong in the forest, began the old man. Despite its imposing stature, the oak tree found itself feeling lonely and disconnected from the world around it. It longed for the company of other trees, feeling isolated in its grandeur. The oak tree spent its days yearning for connection, but it was too proud to reach out for help. It believed that its loneliness was a burden to bear alone, and in its solitude it failed to notice the delicate vines and blooming flowers that surrounded its roots. As seasons passed, a gentle breeze carried the seeds of a neighboring tree to the feet of the lonely oak. These seeds took root and flourished, eventually intertwining with the oak's branches, forming a beautiful and vibrant canopy of life. The oak tree realized that it was never truly alone, for in its darkest moments, nature had woven a tapestry of connection around it, bringing new life and companionship. The oak had only needed to open its heart and reach out to embrace the beauty that surrounded it. The old man turned to the young man and said, "Just like the oak tree, we often overlook the connections that are within our reach. Loneliness can blind us to the love and support that exists around us. It takes courage to ask for help and the determination to seek out connection. Remember that the seeds of connection are all around us, waiting to bloom if only we have the courage to reach out." The young man found solace in the old man's words and realized that he held the power to nurture the connections that would bring light to his life. And so he set out to embrace the courage and determination needed to navigate his loneliness and find the meaningful connections that awaited him. So, as discussed throughout the playlist, Navigating Loneliness and Finding Connection, you'll know that I am not a stranger to loneliness. It has happened throughout my life. And I think there are different periods and different sensations of loneliness that happen. But to shift from loneliness to connection it's an organic process, and it can actually happen naturally. You see, sometimes what my understanding is that as it happens in the brain, loneliness can trigger the chemicals that actually say we need to reach out. The problem becomes when we think, oh, but no one else feels this way and I have to handle this alone. And then we lock ourselves into, this perpetuating loneliness. And before you know it, we're deep in a hole or we're deep in a crevasse and we can't get out. So even though it can happen naturally, and we are wired to connect in today's world. For some reason, it's like we push it. We go, oh my goodness, I need to stay lonely, and I have to handle this alone because no one else feels this way. But that's not really true. It takes courage to walk through the sense of loneliness and into connection, because there's this pervasive belief right now. So there are some tricks and tools you can use, but I really want to point to that sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to recognize that the fear of stepping out, and then you're going to need to walk through it. And I love how my friend, Dr. Fred Blum, said once, it's like walking up to the gates of hell. Like, you have to walk through it. But as soon as you get up, there are 2 dogs on either side, the 3-headed dogs. And as soon as you get up to the gate, they're barking, 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 barking. And as soon as you get up to the gate, they just start licking you. That's kind of what happens with loneliness and connection. As you walk through that fear, as you step through that anxiety and fear with your courage, that then you'll, I mean, I don't know if you like dog kisses. I don't particularly love them, especially if they're on my face. But, like, it's a way for me to say, without realizing it, yeah, that's scary. And when you get there, usually there's that sense of connection is a great big hug. So, I was talking to another friend of mine, and they were saying that sometimes they have to walk through or determine if they want to take the risk of going out and creating connection, because they've been in some icky situations before that were not good. And for them, the value of connection, they know the value of connection so deeply, they're willing to take that risk and walk through that fear and that anxiety to get there. Like, yes, bad things might happen, and I also know the value of connection, and that's the most important thing to me. One of the other things I want to talk about is that sometimes social media inspires us to feel alone. We see all these pictures or videos, and these people are doing all these fantastic things. And what happens is we start to get this idea that if our life isn't full of all these fantastic things all the time, then we're not living, because that's what we're seeing in our feed. And what people tend to forget, what I tend to forget, what my kids tend to forget, is that those things took time. And because of how social media shares one, we have so many people on our feed, right? That we're not going to see that same person's life every day all of their life, right? 24 hours of that person's life. It's just not going to happen. Even on the reality shows, we don't see 24 hours. We see the most enticing hours. We don't see that, sometimes they sit in boredom. Sometimes they sit alone. Sometimes it's quiet, right? Like, it is really easy to forget that. And the other thing is, there can be this false sense of connection. Do you really know the people that you're following? And what will happen is you get to know them as you're following them, but then when you put the phone down or you drop the social media down, what happens is there's this increased sense of loneliness because you're not online and engaging with them, and you don't have the people around you maybe that can help you feel more connected. So I also worry about like the social isolation with the elderly or the disabled group, and I think that's really important to point out. Especially with those of us who are younger and more capable, I think it's really important for us to remember and reach out to those that may not be able to leave their homes as often as they would like to. I'm actually one of those people. I have a caregiver. I need help to leave my home and to go to do things and to have to get out and be social. And luckily, I have people around me who can do that. But many of the elderly don't, and they get stuck behind the TV, which the elderly generation's social media, I suppose. But how do you find connection after feeling lonely? And I think that feelings of loneliness are a natural part of life and can propel us forward, but it takes that real courage, and that walking through the fear to get there is super important. And I really want to talk about the stories we tell ourselves, especially for me. When I get into that place of loneliness, what I start to see is what my brain starts to notice, actually, is where it validates my story that I am alone. What my brain misses, just like in the parable, is where there is connection already happening. So what's really important, I think, for you to do if you're feeling lonely is take a moment and sit down, or maybe not. Just make it something you look for. Where am I connected today? You can ask yourself that question. Where am I feeling connected today? And you can start it at the beginning of your day. Like, start with an intention. And then throughout the day, you can set a timer or just simply ask yourself, where am I feeling connected? And if you want, create find a partner and do it with them and just say, hey, I'm going to tell you 3 places I felt connected today. And, it might actually start a conversation with that person as well. So I invite you to walk through that fear. And I also think it's really important to acknowledge that, looking for that connection, just looking for it. You don't have to tell anyone, that's something small. I remember when I used to go for walks and I literally would just look down and I wouldn't look at anyone or anything around me. And as I brought my head up, that was enough for me that was enough. That was all I could do. And that's all I did for a long time. And I don't know how long it was before I started saying hello. And, I think this is kind of funny, but I think I know there's a TikTok out there. So I'm one of those white people that says hello to people all the time on on the trail. But I think that for me, it's saying hello is that way of connecting on the trail, because I had felt so alone before and I didn't used to notice who was walking by me. And I think for me that giving that hello is that way of saying, hey, you matter. Whether or not they need it or not, it helps me feel better. And I like doing it. So, in closing, you'll discover the power that lies within your story and how being open-hearted can lead to glory. So join me on this journey. Let's explore and delve. All together, we'll find magic in vulnerability's spell. Like, share, comment below to let me know what topics you'd like me to explore next. Remember to subscribe to Me Making Sense of Myself for weekly doses of inspiration and self-discovery. If you have a question, send it over. I'll answer it. Let's do this together. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself.